just we talked about Triple H being one of your favorites, but I'm curious, who else did you gravitate towards as a fan and over time? Who were some of your favorites?
Yeah, so Triple H is definitely my all-time favorite. I would say right below Triple H, I started to find a very strong liking and respect for Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho was a large factor in me also wanting to join professional wrestling. There's somebody that didn't look like the average guy, that was funnier than the average guy, and could still perform amazing feats of acrobatics in the ring. But I'd have to put Chris Jericho at number three because one summer changed my mind, and that was the summer of Punk. CM Punk had always been an underdog, dark horse favorite for me growing up into professional wrestling, but during the summer of Punk, during the Money in the Bank match with John Cena, I think that was one of the first times since I watched professional wrestling for the first time that I had that same feeling of this is legit and something is going to happen. And for whatever reason, my teenage self just, it just gravitated towards CM Punk. Regardless of what you see in the news today, I would probably put H at one, Punk at two, and Jericho at three. But there's so many more people that I emulate or draw inspiration off of. I was such a big fan of Damian Sandow, Aaron Stevens now in the NWA, the Masterpiece, Chris Masters, now Chris Adonis, Tyrus. I was a big fan of the Funkasaurus, believe it or not. I mean, that was my timeline in watching wrestling. And to even take it back farther than that, Ken, I'm a big fan of the Von Erichs. Kerry Von Erich was one of the people that I built one of my robes around. Ric Flair, same with him. I modeled the robe after Ric Flair. Barry Windham, watching Barry move and his striking and his just sheer power and intensity in the ring. All of those guys, Rick Rude
Yeah, I was gonna say
specifically
Rick
too.
Rude. I seen you.
Yeah, Rick Rude, very much so. And what's funny about Rick Rude is growing up, I was really the only person watching professional wrestling in my household outside of, well, my grandpa and my dad would watch with me from time to time. But my uncle turned out to be a very big fan of wrestling, and I always remember asking him what his favorite and who his least favorite was, and he always liked the Hands of Steel Ronnie Garvin, and he always hated Rick Rude, and I always hated Rick Rude because he hated Rick Rude. And then I grew up and became a professional wrestler and became Rick Rude.
That's fantastic.